had to fly to San Francisco and spend a day there, and left Travis Air Force Base and did the typical thing: Guam, Hawaii, Tokyo, and finally Vietnam. And of course, I shared the trip with a lot of other people, not necessarily helicopter pilots. And what I vividly recall, and you probably hear this from almost every veteran you talk to, is I wasn't an experienced airplane traveler, so when they did this really bizarre descent into, it wasn't like a regular, it was a spiraling descent, and we were screaming out of the sky. It really meant nothing to me, and we landed, and I looked out the window and I saw an F-4 burning on the runway at Townsend, and I said, well, we're not in Kansas anymore, and but I get out and I was struck by the heat, the humidity, the smells, not necessarily bad, not necessarily good, just different. I guess vegetation, earth, and some other smells, but it was just strange. I said, well, I'm here. I said, well, we'll see what happens. They put us in a replacement depot, and here's where the gamesmanship came in. The Army said, well, where would you like to go? And I said, well, if I tell them where I want to go, they'll send me the opposite place. Or if I ask for the opposite place, they'll send me where I want to go. And I said, nah, that's too fraught with danger. I said, I don't care. I said, whatever you come up with. So they said, all right, you're going to go to the 135th Assault Helicopter Company, the Experimental Military Unit. And the first thought that went through my head is, well, what kind of experiments are these people doing? And I just came over here to fly helicopters. I don't remember anything about experiments. And when I got to the unit, they said, well, yeah. He said, we are experimenting with mixing the Royal Australian Navy with the United States Army and a consolidated assault helicopter company. And it's called the EMUs, which is rather ironic, and it's a flightless bird. So that was the whole experimental military unit. And as it turned out, I couldn't have dreamed of being in a better place. And everybody will probably say this about their combat assignment, but the Australians were just amazing. And they were our seniors. I mean, these were Navy jet carrier qualified pilots who volunteered to go fly Hueys with the US Army in Vietnam. I thought they were nuts, but the Australians were a very, very strong ally of ours, and the friendship was palpable. I mean, it was just, there was no dissension. Obviously they had a different way of saying things, maybe port and starboard instead of left and right, but there were no issues at all. And they were very patient. They realized, okay, these are younger guys, but, and I think everybody then and now said, well, the Army trains the best helicopter pilots in the world. They really had it figured out. And we worked together. And I have to say the Australians were, I wouldn't say fearless, I'm sure they had fear, but it'd be hard to define it. Well, we started in Bearcat, which was some 30 miles or so, I'm guessing now, it's been so long, east-southeast of Saigon, which was kind of convenient because we could, fly into Saigon for administrative purposes, pick up stuff, but have lunch there. We could drive to Long Ben, and they had a great Chinese restaurant there. So, all in all, it was pretty convenient to a lot of things. The place itself, of course, was a mud hole, but that was just a function of everything being deforested. And then, they put this stuff called petaprime on it, and, it was just unpleasant. It was either muddy or dusty, no in between. And from Bearcat, we flew every day to our area of operations. And for a long time we did that, and somebody finally figured it out. They said, well, wait a minute. These guys are flying about 40 to 45 minutes south into the heart of the Mekong Delta, and at that point, they're beginning their missions. So we got these guys commuting 90 minutes a day, and it's eating up blade time, and it's, certainly reducing the time they can be in combat or on flight duty. So somebody finally wised up and they said, all right, we're going to move them right down into the very heart of the Mekong Delta. And they put us in a place called Dongtam, which was opposite the city of Mito, a city on the Mekong River. And that was the ultimate Dust Bowl. Now the war was about 5 minutes away from us. It was odd the way it worked because we came separately. We were replaced one at a time, if you will. And the Australians came as a contingent. So at any point in time, the Australians would be the experienced people, having been there for they were nearing the end of their tour, and it was probably in the middle of the year, and most of the American pilots were just getting up to speed. But then the new contingent would come in, and their experience was, at least operationally where we were, less than that of the Army pilots. So it kind of seesawed back and forth, but it was a non-issue because these people were fast learners. And the funny thing, they weren't emotional people. They were gregarious, they were outgoing, they were generous, even with flight time. I mean, a lot of the American pilots wouldn't let you touch the controls. The Australian guys, in fact, the thing that I remember most about being in Vietnam for my first time, almost like on my first flight, I considered that I was a graduate aviator, and come to find out that I've only been given a learner's permit because it was just remarkably different. And I was thinking, and after a while I thought to myself, I said, boy, you get in trouble in flight school if you flew like this, but here it's okay, and it was the requirements, So they were great people. And I even took an R&R in Sydney and visited some folks, and they treated me very well. So a terrific experience that I treasure to this day.